All right, ladies and gentlemen, Chapter 29, A Time of Upheaval. If you look at the dates on here, 1961 and 1980, there's a lot of overlap between this and the material of last chapter. What's happening? Well, the civil rights movement is going on through a part of this. You've got the Vietnam War, which is happening. The Cold War is still in full swing. Just a lot. We're also going to see some economic troubles, which happen in the 1970s. And so here we go. Let's just jump right in. All right, 1964. Now remember what's happening. Vietnam is going on. We see the rise of what is called the Berkeley Free Speech Movement, or the FSM, and it was basically calling for the students on college campuses. It begins in Berkeley to have their opinion heard, because many of the colleges were telling them that they were not allowed to express those. So on the idea of free speech, First Amendment, we begin to see quite a number of movements break out. Mario Salvio is one of the major leaders of this particular movement. And ironically, if you look at many of the colleges today, we kind of see sort of a reverse of that. And when we talk about speakers coming to campuses and students saying, well, we don't want to hear what they have to say. And so it's kind of interesting how that's kind of flipped around a little bit. But 1964, this is happening as a result of what was happening in Vietnam. That was the year of the Gulf of Tonkin and the escalation, and of course the draft gets in full swing right about that time. The Beatles arrive in the United States in 1964. That begins what is called Beatlemania, and sort of that phase of rock and roll music. Particularly popular among the teenagers. 1965, we're going to see, you might have, if you were around in 1965, you might have seen news reports on Ken Kinsey and the Merry Pranksters. Basically, they were advocating drug use, hard drug use, like LSD, in the California. And in some ways, this is going to be tied in with the counterculture movement, the hippie movement of the 1960s, 1970s. 1965, abolition of automatic student deferments from the draft goes into place. Before 1966, if you were a full-time student, you could not be drafted. Well, that goes away in 1966, and so now college students could finish up their semester, and then they might be drafted to go to the war in Vietnam. 1967, there's a march on the Pentagon, which was an anti-war protest in that year, and the Israeli-Arab Six-Day War happens in 67. It's exactly what it sounds like. It was a six-day war between Israel, newly established in 1948, and several of the Arab countries in the area. Israel wins this in 6 days and expands its territory as a result. 1968, there's the Tet Offensive, which I've mentioned to you before. Martin Luther King Jr. is assassinated in 68. As a result of that, a number of race riots began to sweep the nation. Students are going to take over a number of buildings at Columbia University. Again, this is an increasing, you see increasing instances of students rising up and protesting some of the policies, particularly those in Vietnam. Robert Kennedy, who's running for the Democratic presidency in 1968 against Richard Nixon on the Republican side, is going to be assassinated I think he was in L.A. when he was killed. Sirhan is his assassin. This was John Kennedy's brother, so now you've got two brothers that have been assassinated. For the most part, I guess could argue political reasons. Both are very prominent in political circles. Robert Kennedy, by the way, was increasingly outspoken against the Vietnam War. Violence is going to break out at the Democratic Convention in Chicago of that year. Sometimes it's called the Battle of Chicago, when protesters outside the convention, which was seeking to nominate a presidential candidate, violence breaks out, and a number of protesters will be arrested outside of there in Chicago. The Vietnam peace talks open in Paris. Richard Nixon becomes president in 68, and he begins to institute a policy of trying to get us out of Vietnam, although it doesn't look like it, because the war actually will expand into Cambodia and into Laos. 1969, John Kennedy in the early 1960s had said that we will put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Well, Apollo 11 is going to do just that. Human beings from the United States are going to be the first to land on the moon. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins is in the command module. He doesn't get to land on the moon. I always felt a little sorry for Michael Collins. If you want to know more about these Apollo missions, though, there's a fantastic series, if you can find it, called When We Left the Earth, the NASA missions. There's 6 of them. They're about 45 minutes to an hour long. Well worth your time if you can find them on NASA channel or whatever, wherever you get your streaming. See if you can find that. It's really, really good. Nixon begins the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Vietnam. 1969, and also in 69 we see the Woodstock Music Festival. I used to teach my class when we would discuss 69 that this was sort of a fork in the road for America. On one side you have the success of math and science and education with the Apollo missions, and on the other side you sort of have the emotional sort of make love not war attitude of Woodstock. And so it's almost like America's taking 2 different paths after 1969. 1970, the United States is going to invade Cambodia. Students are going to protest the war in Kent State and at Jackson State. Similar thing happens in both cases. National Guard comes out to kind of keep the peace. Things get out of control and you have dead students. The Beatles break up in 1970. And the first Earth Day is also going to be celebrated in 1970 as well. 1971, the New York Times began to publish a number of secret leaked documents that had been stolen from the Pentagon. These are called the Pentagon Papers. Daniel Ellsberg was the thief, if you want to call him that. If you want to compare him to someone modern day, think about Edward Snowden. Similar situation. Well, when the New York Times goes to publish it, the Nixon administration tries to stop the publication of it, but the Supreme Court sides with the paper on the basis of free speech. And what Americans began to see is that what we're told by the government is not what the papers are publishing in these documents, and so it leads to a fairly severe level of distrust, and of course it's going to throw more fuel on the fire of the anti-war movement. Nixon is going to institute wage and price freezes. The economy's starting to do some things. It's kind of scary, and South Vietnam will invade Laos with the help of U.S. air support. I think if you've seen another movie, Air America, with Mel Gibson, kind of deals with some of that. 1972, Nixon visits China and the Soviet Union. First president to do so, to visit communist nations, and this is sort of the diplomatic triumph of his administration. His Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, was pretty brilliant when it came down to some of these, the diplomacy of the Nixon administration. SALT I, which stands for the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, is going to be approved, which, again, it's going to be an arms treaty. Us and our enemies are agreeing to cut back on the amount of weapons that we have. 1972, just before the presidential election in that year, there's a break-in at the Democratic National Committee's headquarters in Washington, D.C. It's in the Watergate Hotel. And when the word comes out a couple of years later, after Nixon wins by one of the most lopsided victories in American history, we began to hear that Nixon was involved, at least indirectly involved, in the break-in. Those that broke in were looking for information to use against his political opponent in the 72 election. So we'll get more to that in a moment. But Nixon is elected president by a huge margin. 1973, the Vietnam ceasefire agreement will be signed in that year. We began to pull our soldiers out, but we see the major evacuation of Vietnam, and our embassies happen in 75. Famous image of a helicopter sitting on top of the embassy there. The Senate is going to establish a special committee to investigate Watergate, this break-in. President Salvador Allende is going to be ousted and murdered in Chile, so it just kind of shows you what the times look like. Vice President Spiro Agnew will resign under accusations of corruption, and Senator Gerald Ford will be appointed vice president. Because that's the way things get done. Roe versus Wade, which is going to eliminate state laws which ban outright abortion, is going to be decided by the Supreme Court in 73. The Yom Kippur War, it's another Israeli war, is going to break out in 73. And OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, begins its embargo of oil to the West. It means they're cutting off how much oil they're sending us. And we're not nearly as independent then as we are now. And so we see shortages, the price goes up, and you may only be able to buy gas a couple of times a week as a result of the oil shortages. 1973, Nixon is going to fire a good number of his cabinet members. This is called the Saturday Night Massacre in political terms. 1974, the House Judiciary Committee is going to look at the Watergate findings and begin the process of impeachment toward Nixon. I think Nixon sees the writing on the wall. He resigns, and Ford becomes the president. Now, a bit of trivia for you. Gerald Ford is the only president to ever never have been elected to an executive office. He was a senator, was appointed to vice president, and now moves into the presidency upon the resignation of Nixon. He immediately pardons Nixon. Now, this is not going to be a popular thing, and it probably is the reason why Ford is not elected in, what would that be, in 76? He loses. 1975, the South Vietnamese government is going to fall in that year. Famous photographs of the helicopters evacuating not only members at our embassy, but also South Vietnamese refugees. And many of them come to the United States, and you may even know some folks that fall into that. 1976, Jimmy Carter is elected president in that year. He's a Democrat from Georgia. Fairly likable, not very outspoken, but the way he handles a few things makes him oftentimes considered not to be a really great president. Although I do know some historians that disagree with that sentiment. 1977, the Panama Canal, a treaty is signed between us and the Panamanians, giving the Panama Canal back to them, which we had built it and we had it under treaty, but we're returning it to them in 1977. The introduction of the Apple II computer by the Apple Corporation is going to revolutionize personal computers, which is making you taking this class online possible at the moment. And 1977, we see one of the first major gay pride parades in New York and also in San Francisco. So we could argue that this is sort of where that movement sort of really begins to be visible. 1978, Carter is going to announce federal funds to relocate the Love Canal residents. If you want to know more about that, check out the Century America's Time episode. I don't remember which one it is. Look for the dates. But in 1978, at Love Canal, New York, many houses were basically built on an area where toxic chemical waste had been dumped. People were getting very, very sick, and residents took matters into their own hands. They pretty much took hostage government officials, called Carter on the phone and said, if you don't buy these houses from us so we can move and start our lives over somewhere else, we're not letting these people go. And basically they were exposing those government officials to the same toxins that the people of Love Canal were being exposed to. 1979, peace treaty is going to be signed between Israel and Egypt, between Prime Minister Begin and Anwar al-Sadat at the White House. So this was something this is sort of high up on the list of Carter's accomplishments. The second round of OPEC price increases hit. That's going to mean more oil shortages. 1979, we also see the accident at 3 Mile Island nuclear plant, which was in New York, Pennsylvania. There was just almost a nuclear meltdown. It's one of the reasons why we don't have more nuclear power plants in America. That happened, and not too long after that, you have the Chernobyl incident in Russia. Soviet Union. Carter's going to establish full-time diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. First time that's happened. And in 1979, we see the Iranian hostage crisis. Now, the background of this is fairly simple. Carter had befriended the Shah of Iran, the leader of Iran. He was a fairly corrupt official. Many Iranians did not like him. There was a religious leader there, and I'm going blank on what they called him, that was beginning to call out the Shah of Iran. Well, he came down with cancer, and Carter invited him to the United States to seek treatment, and sort of in retaliation for that, a number of Americans are going to be held hostage in the embassy there in Tehran. Carter does everything he can to negotiate their release. In fact, he doesn't even campaign for his run at the presidency in 1980 as a result. But the day that Ronald Reagan is elected president, all of these hostages are going to be released. It's not a direct comparison, but the movie Argo deals with this crisis, although I think that deals with some Canadians that's kind of going through some of the same things as the Americans are. All right, guys, we got only 1 or 2 more chapters to go. Hopefully this is helpful. Reach out to me with any comments or questions, and be sure you're reading. Take care.